My name is Toshiki. I'm from Osaka, Japan. Now I live in Montreal, Canada. At the beginning of this year, I went back to Japan and I stayed there for about a week. While I'm away from Japan, I found so many new things about Japan and Japanese people. For me, that's the most valuable things to be away from your home country. Rather than getting to know about a country you live in, you can get to know more about your home country by seeing from outside. And when you go back to your country, you would realize many things that you didn't pay attention to when you lived. Since I'm a photographer, I pay attention to small, mundane things in life to find subjects, and especially a country like Japan, which is quite extreme in many ways. It's not difficult to find something unique. So let's talk about how I found Japan. When I say I'm from Japan, here in Canada or other countries I've been to, people's reactions are always so positive, like, oh, it's a very good country, nice culture, history, and kind people. I love manga, I love Japanese cars, and I love Japanese food, Japanese something. Of course, you wouldn't say something negative about someone's home country, no matter where she or he is from. But I've been feeling something different. I didn't know how people appreciate our culture and products. Most Japanese don't know how privileged we are. If you were born and raised in Japan, it's quite normal to have Japanese products and entertainments around your life, such as cars, cameras, TVs, mangas, or animes, because you are in Japan. And we learn the history of Japan from even 660 BC, when the first emperor created the country of Japan. It's not called Japan at that time though. Then our mind will be like, we use Japanese products and watch Japanese anime because we are in Japan, of course. And we learn Japanese history, of course, because we live in Japan, we are from Japan, we are Japanese. But once you get out of Japan, you still find so many Japanese products all over the world. And you can find manga at each bookstore. Then you can realize that it's not normal to always have products from your own country. I've never seen Canadian cars in Canada. And having over 2,000 years of history is very unusual. Technically, we understand that, but it's difficult to feel it if you live in Japan. But the thing is, we tend to be so pessimistic about our country, even though we have good products and rich history and culture. There's a huge gap between people's impression about Japan and how Japanese people think about Japan. Of course, it can happen to every country. I feel that when I talked with my Japanese friends, there are some factors that make us negative. Shrinking economy, aging population and low birth rate, gender inequality, and so on. And the mass media picks these topics every day. We have so many serious problems. It would be difficult to keep the economic presence as it used to be in the world. Of course, we gotta face these problems seriously. But is Japan the only country having so many problems? Of course not. Each country has its own problems. Even though all countries are not perfect, we have such a deep history and culture. I feel like we gotta appreciate them more rather than just being pessimistic blindly. If we lose them, that's the time we should be deeply pessimistic. I feel like we can be more confident and proud of our country and culture. I couldn't have thought about our culture in this way if I just lived in Japan. Let's talk about photography, since this channel is about it. Our cities are very clean and organized, and people don't show much emotion in a public area. In that sense, you would say it's challenging to find something interesting to take photos of. But I don't think so. Since everything is organized, chaos stands out. Since everything is at places where it's supposed to be, unpredictability stands out. It's not like New York, which is mecca of street photography. It's not like India, which is full of chaos. But I'm sure that our cities are unique. It's such fun to find chaos in the cleanest city in the world. I found more people with their cameras than in other countries. Street photography is kind of popular in Japan, I guess. And I was really comfortable with that when I stayed. If you think about Japan, you might come up with words like strict or like social pressure. And in this sense, you might think that having a camera and taking photos of people or architecture can be rude or weird. But in my opinion, Japanese society and people are open to photographers. Of course, it depends and you gotta be respectful. But as long as you don't do anything wrong, people don't care about your business. Again, it depends on people and you have to be respectful and careful as always. I feel like there's a contradiction in Japanese personality. Keeping society clean and organized is very important in our country. To do that, we have to be strict on each other and feel some amount of pressure not to be weird. But on the other hand, we have a very cold side, like we don't care about your business, do whatever you want. And when it comes to taking photos, people don't care about your business. These two sides thing happens in many situations in Japan. Our society is very strict and has many unwritten rules. But on the other hand, we have a crazy drinking culture. We don't like to stand out. But on the other hand, our unique fashion is internationally famous. When you think about Japan, you would imagine clean and organized city, but you can also imagine crazy nightlife culture. I know what I'm saying is very vague and subjective, so I want you to go there and see it in person. I'm very curious how you would react. Japan and me is like a love and hate relationship. I really love Japanese culture that takes care of each other, but sometimes it goes too much. We shouldn't make any trouble and that becomes our social pressure. We don't realize that the amount of pressure is not normal. I feel like we can be more relaxed and selfish and allow each other, but it's also true that this culture makes us unique and special. There's no right or wrong, always pros and cons. No answer with this conversation. Whatever I say, the hates never exceed the love. As I go through my life, I get to know more about our culture and country. As I get to know more about my country, I like it more and more. As long as I can say so, I'm so privileged. I shouldn't take it for granted. Born and raised in such a culturally rich country, and cultivate my identity there. The longer I stay away from Japan, the stronger my identity as a Japanese gets. Wherever I go, I'm Japanese.